from 19 years old at university with a plan of moving into property to now at 26 run this 7-figure company. I think the question that's most likely front of mind for a lot of listeners is how you've actually went throughout that journey. It's the most common question that comes up when I speak about the members within the network. Walk us through that initial time period, Laurence, and like how it actually started in the first place and the journey that you went on with Jake. And now you're at a stage where you've got 16 employees, 60 properties. The title is going to be way more precise, but at the moment it's 7 figures a year. Walk us through that initial part of the journey, mate, and we can smash this podcast.
Okay. I think it's probably important to say that, yes, I've always been massively ambitious and there was like a grand plan back at the start, but like literally the journey at the start was just taking a step forward. Yep. There wasn't any like grand launch. There wasn't any major investment or anything like that. Just met a guy at uni, Jake, and we were both kind of interested in starting a business. We didn't really know what that business was going to be. We had some ridiculous ideas like Black Horse Energy. I think Red Bull might have said us. Like a ton of different things, but Jake was actually asked by someone if he could help strip wallpaper for this company. It was a property company in Glasgow. We're doing a renovation, and I lived quite near Jake at the time. And he basically asked me, he was like, "Do you want to come and help strip wallpaper?" So that was probably the very start of Donnini, if you like. And we did strip wallpaper in this flat. Whilst we were there, it was like, these guys are clearly making some money. I've always been driven to kind of probably want to try and understand business and business models, if you like. So we spoke about it and I was like, yeah, this is something that we could do. We'd spoke about so many different things and it was like right in front of us.
Yeah. And at that time, also, you said you didn't source investment or anything like that per se, in terms of that initial kind of thought process behind it. But to get your first property, I think you explained before what the actual kind of, like, for them there was no risk, I believe, in acquiring the property that you then renovated to resell. Yeah.
So 19 years old, must have been charmed, don't really know, but we basically convinced some investors to lend us the money to buy somewhere to renovate, to then sell on the basis that we would put in all the time and we would actually invest the money to do like the actual renovation, if you like. Okay. And if we cocked it up, which was possibly likely when we were 19 and didn't really have too much experience, they would just get the property at that level of done upness, if you like. So yeah, kind of like not too much risk for them.
Yeah. And they would just get the property anyways. So it actually didn't actually matter. Yeah. Those investors, were they people that you knew previously or were they literally just by pure chance?
Yeah, no, it was like family connections, I feel like.
Family connections, yeah. Because I think it's always the same, like whenever people are maybe looking at, they probably started their journey. Probably the most common pain point is the lack of capital, lack of cash, not knowing how to potentially move forward. And I think obviously opportunities definitely come of it. If I think about, it's like you just said, you just have to take steps forward to begin with to actually open those doors. And I think if I'll actually look back at the beginning of my journey we were looking for investment last year, just a small amount, nothing crazy. And the first conversation I had with a friend about sourcing that investment, not to him to actually invest, just telling him I was going to do it, he just offered me the cash. And it was like that potential discussion, the potential exploration of it is actually what got us to that place. Whereas at the moment, I imagine you have probably a pool of investors that you go to with regular deals. Would that be right in saying?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we work with a bunch of different property owners and we'll continue to look to work with more, whether people own one individual property or have enough money to buy one individual property or might buy an entire development of multiple millions of pounds worth of units, etc. That's definitely something we have spoken about before, though, is you actually go to someone and say, can I have some money? We need to go and do this thing. The answer is normally jog on.
Yep.
But if you go to somebody that might have some money and you say, oh, this is something that we do for other people and we've had some real success, a lot of people are like, all right, how can I get involved?
Yes. Everyone wants to make money.
Yeah. Especially, and a lot of people that have a lot of money in the bank are struggling to actually make anything on it as well.
Yeah, that's very true, mate, without a doubt. In terms of the journey now, you obviously spoke about how you're very ambitious, quite a visionary. It's probably the discussion that happens quite regularly. Where do you actually want to take the company from where it is at the moment? Have you got any thoughts or on that?
100%. So yeah, team of 16 at the moment, about 60 properties at the moment. We're very much based in Ayrshire at the moment, but the ambition goes far beyond that. We want to have units kind of throughout Scotland, the UK, and ultimately internationally. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. The model's ultimately the same. So we do own a few of our own properties, but the majority of them we lease from landlords or investors. We offer them a guaranteed amount, and we then essentially let those properties out by the night. So we could do that in Inverness, or we could do that in Israel. I don't know why that came to mind, but it was twice. Yeah, it could really be anywhere.
Yeah. And in terms of the letting side of things, was that part of the business that you had to essentially, because one of the things I did want to talk about is probably the focus that you put on the company brand as opposed to your quote unquote personal brand. I think you built quite a good personal reputation, or else these opportunities just literally would not come about. But maybe in a social presence side of things, you probably are quite a ghost.
Yeah.
You've
never been that harsh before.
Got me for the pod. Nah, I think the reputation side of things though is something that a lot of people don't necessarily speak about in terms of the investing side of things and sourcing opportunities. Like when you have such a positive word of mouth, Hormozy speaks about it all the time, but when you have such a positive word of mouth, opportunities just come. And I think that with the stage that you're at the moment, that is very much the case, and opportunities in Israel will probably come as time goes on. But yeah, so in terms of the company brand and how you've essentially scaled that and not focused on quote unquote your personal brand, but you have focused on your personal reputation. Why was that the primary focus? I've kind of digressed away from the original question I was going to ask, but it's fine.
Yeah, can imagine I was doing that quite a lot, but there's plenty to talk about. So I did marketing at uni. I'm like so probably obsessed by our brand, but also just branding in general. I think that whether you think it or not, you're always kind of influenced by branding and marketing. A lot of people, especially that don't do marketing at uni, are like, nah, that doesn't actually talk to me, but it does. The reason that we might buy Warburton's bread is because our family always bought it, and we have a connection to it for that reason. So what I'm getting to is, I was definitely very driven to develop a really strong brand from the very start. A brand probably much better than it had to be when we started, and a brand so much more than a logo and a color scheme and a type font and things like that. It's actually what will people think of when they see that brand, and trying to instill that in every touch point, etc.
Yes.
So it wasn't a deliberate choice to not focus from a personal branding point of view. It was probably more just an emphasis to get the aesthetics and the meaning behind the actual business a really strong point, which has definitely done us well. We do have a good level of brand awareness where our properties are. Obviously, it's not at a kind of national level yet or international level yet. But talking about personal branding, that's an area that I know I definitely need to work on to accelerate those opportunities, because people buy from people and all that.
Yes, it's an interesting one, because I think the personal branding that side of things, I don't imagine probably some people would disagree with me, but I feel like that is just so much more easier, because your personal brand is just, I guess, a magnifying glass on you as a person. And obviously you choose also what you put out there, and there's probably a lot of things that you can reflect on as an individual. Whereas when you're building a brand from scratch, like that to me, when you're saying personal brand seems out of your depth, that to me is like, I wouldn't know where the fuck to start. Like, so when you said a brand is more than a colour and a logo, my first thought was, always treat a brand like a colour and a logo. And I'm like, that just shows me probably how out of my depth I potentially was, and that potentially from listening to you, it's like you've potentially done the harder job already. But that's like, that opinion's subjective, because it's just because I have no knowledge of how to actually scale a company brand. Like, what was the initial starting point of actually scaling the company brand to actually gain awareness and gain more than it just being a colours and a logo?
Yeah, okay. I mean, the main way that we kind of got brand awareness at the start, I feel like, was through, I mean, we didn't really have much money to do TV ads or anything. But we just harassed everyone that we knew into knowing who we were. So like we became a member of the chambers of commerce and networking groups and things like that. And we'd always go in as, this is incredibly cringe and I'm going to regret saying this, but like at the chambers of commerce, they called us the Donnini boys because we were, yeah, there you go. But obviously like we were like younger guys. I don't know if they like mothered us, but we were harassing them all the time. You know, we'd phone them up and say, could you connect us to Spirit Aerosystems? Massive corporates that we were trying to get in with, but it was always as Donnini.
Yes. It's an interesting one because I feel like people mistake how much is required to just get in the trenches to begin with, to just be the harasser, be the almost like the interrogator, to actually get you the opportunities that is required. They're not going to just magically appear at your doorstep like they potentially do now, where you'll have opportunities that will just appear and people will come to you. Like, if I look back probably in my journey, even though it's not about me, sending 1,200 video messages over the course of a year on LinkedIn with no intention of selling, but with the intention of people just knowing who I actually was. Like, that has been a massive reason of how I've actually been able to even build a network from nothing. Like, I'm just one person. How do you build a network without a network? Like, you have to do something. You have to get in the trenches, and I really resonate with that, mate.
Yeah. I think that really probably makes me come on to like, so when obviously we did that flip, we made some good profit from that. And then we went and we decided to go into serviced accommodation to build a brand, etc. But that really started with one property. And that, by the way, didn't really take any real money to bring that online because we were leasing it from a landlord. We had to buy some furniture, which actually, on reflection, we probably didn't need to. We could have got them to buy it and we could have just added it to the rent. So for anybody who's like, oh, I can't start because I don't have money, like there's a model that you will be able to start without money. But anyway, we got that one property. And we had that one property for half a year. We had one property. And then half a year down the line, we got two pretty much at once. And we thought we were like absolute cooking with gas. We had three at that time. But like I will never forget that 6 months of just absolute tedium of momentum will build. This will happen. It'll be fine. We will get there. But it was like soul destroying every day because we would phone every landlord, property owner, letting agent, estate agent that we possibly could with any property that would come online to try and lease it, to try and get someone to buy it for us to then lease it from them. And it was just like the rejection after rejection. After rejection. And then I'd be phoning BAE, Spirit, the airport. They're all aviation people, non-aviation people as well. And it'd be like, hey, we're Donnini Apartments, we're a serviced accommodation company. You know, like staying in a hotel? Well, don't do that anymore. Come stay in our apartments. And some of these guys would be like, yeah, okay, we've got 12 people coming over for 3 weeks on Monday. What's your rates? And then I'd have to say, well, we don't actually have availability because we only had 1 2-bedroom apartment. So it was really hard. And, you know, you could easily understand how a lot of people would kind of chuck the towel in at that initial stage of, it takes a long time for things to actually stick, but momentum does build. And I think we got 3 properties in half a year. Won't go into too much detail in this next step, but we then we got a really big inquiry that it was a large company that we managed to do a deal with, to the point that they were basically sending people over from abroad. And it took until like a few days before they were actually arriving for us to get the final keys. And it was, I think we'd sold like 6 apartments for half a year each. And at that point we only had 3. And we actually had other bookings in as well. So we had to bring on like 4 or 5 extra apartments very last minute. And we'd already sold them. We'd actually already been paid. And we didn't have them. And like we literally went back to the drawing board multiple times, like the whiteboard. Trying to figure out who else we could talk to.
It's like what when you actually look at like the amount of things that are born out of desperation, like in that moment, I'm not surprised that it took you like 3 days before to get the final keys because the opportunity was almost too big to pass up. But also on the flip side of it, like that probably would have been way more, tell me if I'm wrong, easier to sell to potential landlords that you're like, I can like lease this off you for X amount and I'll have it full for 6 months, like guaranteed.
Yeah.
Did that help or not?
I think we probably didn't want to say too much, because when we're phoning a landlord to say we need your property for 6 months, we don't want them to go, all right, hold on, you're going to be making really good money out of our property. So yeah, that would have been a consideration. But there was one particular letting agency that there was 2 properties that would do the job. They weren't perfect. We've got much nicer properties now. I hope they're not listening. But yeah, we were trying to get these properties. We were trying, and it just they wouldn't give them to us. And then I go, like literally 4 or 5 days before the guys were arriving, we phoned up and we were like, right, we'll give you 6 months rent up front on both of them.
Right. Okay.
And they were like, okay, you can have the properties. Which was just ridiculous. And then I was driving around in my wee Fiat Pinto, like picking up used IKEA dining tables to go and like build them with one hand as we were checking these guests in with the other hand. It's ridiculous period. But we got there. And then there was a bunch of problems once they checked in. But that, honestly, like that first deal, which was probably by the end of the first year, I think. Yep. That really allowed us to then go and hire people. Because that gave us the money to go and hire people, and actually we had enough properties through we wouldn't have taken on that many additional properties if we hadn't been absolutely forced to.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't not have somewhere for them to stay.
I guess that's probably where a lot of people would be curious of like how you actually make the decision to hire as opposed to, so for example, like when I look at like Young and Lazy, like probably because we run so lean operationally, if that's even a word, in terms of the amount of time that we actually are spending delivering the service, that obviously like that thought process doesn't come into my mind of when we would need to hire per se, for probably quite some time. In terms of obviously how our model is in terms of our first few hires, probably in the form of like bringing on a sales individual, maybe bringing on some coaches, maybe bringing on some people to actually facilitate the sessions, whereas you had to go like from the ground up and actually find some proper employees to come into specific roles that are maybe somewhat different. I guess that to me seems a bit more alien like, as opposed to how I've just explained Young and Lazy to you.
Yeah.
But how do you actually go about working out what roles you require and understanding what those roles are actually going to consist of, and then I guess creating like an interview process? I imagine you probably didn't have one of those, but you had to create one for it. I just asked you like 3 different questions.
Yeah, that was probably our initial interview process was probably pretty terrible. But yeah, to kind of break that down, it probably took us too long to make our first few hires.
Yeah.
But we were, as we still are, very driven for serious growth. And we knew that we'd have to add people in at some point. We also are in a very operationally heavy industry. Yeah. We have physical properties that need cleaned. We've got guests that arrive all the time, that check it all the time. We have maintenance problems all the time. Like operationally, service accommodation is very heavy.
Yeah.
We've always had the philosophy of hiring ahead of the curve. So rather than getting to a point that you're about to burst at the seams, hire people before you absolutely need them is our philosophy.
Yep.
And that's based on the fact that we absolutely believe in where we're going from a growth point of view, that if you can afford to have them now, then that should be able to free up time to allow you to get to that point of growth faster.
Yep.
And it might also improve the quality of the service that you can offer.
Yeah.
Now, again, our industry is maybe different from like Y&L and that. I think with regards to finding the first few people, the way you said that there is definitely not how it went for us.
Yeah.
We interviewed a bunch of people that our initial interview questions, my God, were like embarrassing on reflection. I think we like literally one of the questions was, if one of our apartments was full of Smarties, how would you get rid of them? Just to like, but with the theory being like, we really want to see how people react to just like bizarre situations here, rather than what's your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
They're probably used to that kind of question. But we were hiring for one person who we thought would come in, take care of like putting our properties online, handle guests, maybe do a little bit of inbound sales inquiries, although that was mainly me at the time, deal with cleaners, things like that. And there was two people we hired that we were like, oh, they're both brilliant, Amy and Joy. Which one? And we were kind of like, let's be ballsy and hire both. So we did, and then they both had notice periods. So there was like, I think 4 weeks and 8 weeks before they could start. And just based on their interview process, we were like, Joy would probably be better at that. Amy would probably be better at that.
Yeah.
And somehow, like, that was just luck that we got that right. And Amy came in, was more focused on guests. She's now our full-time salesperson. Joy came in and was more focused on operations, and she's still in that space. She kind of runs process development now.
And they're still with you now after, what would that be, like 6 years, 5-6 years?
Yeah, a long time. I can't actually genuinely, like, the timeline of the past, I can't remember exactly when. I need to actually, lock that down because people ask me that a lot. I can't believe that we've been going for, like, we will be 6 years old on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
So if you ever see Jake and I out on Valentine's Day, that's because that is the official start of the Donnini date, which is bizarre, but 6 on the 14th of February.
I think it's a lot, like, when you look at the hiring process, it's probably a massive grey area for, it's probably like, when you look at like, Young and Lazy, that's probably more of like maybe like your company, for example, is probably more traditional in terms of like, probably like COVID, a lot of other different things forced a lot of businesses online. And a lot of people are obviously able to start businesses with zero startup, zero requirements of even having to leave their house. Like, they could literally just scale a full company, like, online, the way that I did, essentially.
Yeah.
So probably for a lot of individuals, the hiring process is quite a greyish area.
Yeah.
That probably not a lot of young entrepreneurs actually know where to start or when to know. When did, obviously you maybe have a bit of a different philosophy, but when in any company would be a really broad question, but let's say in the property side of things, when in property would you be able to identify that you require staff?
Okay. I think you probably need to figure out, are you a growth company or are you a lifestyle business? You know, are you happy with like a good amount of growth, or you really want to push and have like a large company throughout multiple locations, etc. We were very much, we want to be a large business with a great large team of people covering a large kind of number of locations, if you like. I think firstly, figuring that bit out, choosing what you want to be, and then if there's any point that you can't progress the business because your time is literally constrained, or maybe there's points that you're going, I'm actually having to do things here that are really not what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Then if you can afford to do it, and I mean, at the start of any business, afford's a difficult word. It's like, you might not truly be able to afford it, but if you have the cash flow to do it, then as long as you believe in the growth and you know that you're going to catch up with yourself, it's probably the right time to do it. If you're being constrained and you can't move forward because you don't have enough hours in the day, or you're offering a shitty service because you're not great at guest experience, you're the guy that goes and figures out opportunities, then
it's almost like I guess with what you're touching on there, you're betting on yourself in terms of, okay, say I'm working 50 hours a week at the moment and 20 hours of that time is spent on something I don't want to do, admin. Then bringing in someone part-time to do admin, like, you're then having to part way with cash flow, but you're also banking on the fact that you now have 20 hours free to do more of the stuff that you're good at, which is then going to grow the business further. Would that be an example?
Yeah. You also might become a much better version of you in that process. It's not necessarily just the 20 hours a week of admin. That 20 hours a week of admin might move you out of like your unique abilities and your sharpness at what you're good at, because you're kind of having to do a bunch of different things. Now, there's people that very much see that in a different way. But I genuinely do believe that focus on what you're good at, like really find a way to spend pretty much all of your time doing that, and get other people in around you to support the ongoing operation of the business.
How did you identify what you were good at?
Well, that's a big question. Probably a lot of reading and personal development and journaling and reflection. Taking it back to the very start, I'm sure many people will have heard of a book called E-Myth. If you haven't, have looked at it. Read a book called E-Myth, and it talks about like writing out everything that's done in your business. So Jake and I did that, like all the kind of micro tasks. Jake and I did that, and it was like finance, Jake, you're much stronger at that. Sales, that's kind of more my bag. And like that was kind of a process that we went through to maybe go, yeah, you're good at that, you're good at that.
Yep.
I think on a kind of bigger sense of where we're at now, it's really hard to do that because you kind of have to park ego and actually go, right, what am I truly good at? What am I truly not good at?
Yep.
But probably comes down to your values to a degree, and also what feels natural for you. What do you get a lot of energy out of? What do you feel a lot of purpose and fulfillment out of? And what feels far more forced and sticky when you're doing it?
Yep.
And if you can actually focus on the stuff that you feel really fulfilled out of, and again, in my opinion, you're probably more likely to get into flow when you're doing that and produce really good work. And if you can spend as much of your time as possible in that area, as long as you can have other people around you that are doing the same in areas that the business needs that they're really good at, in theory, that should be the most effective.
Yeah. Way. I guess it's probably like the how of actually transitioning into that. Because I guess like one of the things you touched on with personal development, reading, journaling, there's probably a lot within the money mindset side of things that holds people back from actually doing that, in terms of being willing to say like take investment to bring someone on to free up those hours, or to identify, right, from a cash flow aspect, we're in profit every single month. Say we're in $3,000 profit every month, then we can definitely afford to bring on someone part-time, 1.5k a month, for example. But then we have all these other opportunities as well, and it's like actually thinking about how to potentially move forward. There's probably quite a lot of money mindset, I guess, blockers within there. And one of the things I've noticed probably from the more and more time that I spent with you, like you don't really see money in the same way that I see a lot of others looking at money. And what I mean by that is that I only touch on ego because you kind of touched on it already, which is that there was a time period where we went for lunch and we spoke about the numbers that Donnini was doing, and like you were almost like to be doing the numbers that you are doing at the moment, like you didn't even have any emotional reaction to it, nor did you, I don't know how to explain it. There was no ego involved with the numbers that you were discussing, and nor did you maybe see like how much we were generating, which would be significantly less. Never did you look at maybe like my opinion that I was putting forward or my advice that you were asking for in a potentially dimmer light as opposed to like what you were already doing.
Yeah.
I know I've not really asked a question there, but it's almost like, I guess, how did you actually develop your money mindset to where it's at the moment? And how did you like strip ego away from it also? Like you've done like two like massive things there.
I think on the ego front, I just like truly everyone is, this is really cliche, but everyone's like on their journey, and like I'm also like I'm massively impatient with where we're at, and I don't think we're at an incredible point. But if we do the right things, that could accelerate very quickly, as it could with you guys. So it's like actually where we are right now is almost irrelevant. It's about where we're heading.
Okay.
And that's probably actually, it's interesting because I'm reflecting on it sitting here. That's probably the real reason for it, is I'm all about the big picture. I'm all about the growth that I'm far more interested about the potential of where YNL is going and the potential of where Donnini and other businesses that we'll move into, where that's going, than actually where we're at right now. And it's not that I probably am quite unsatisfied with where we're at, but it's not truly that. It's just like, it's almost not super relevant to, like the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
It's just part of it.
I guess it's probably just like what we're exposed to through things like social media and stuff like that you get to a certain stage within business and your company is generating so much. Like, if I just like met you on the street or met you prior to Young Lazy, I would have had no idea what you were doing, like business wise, like numbers wise. There is no flaunting. There's no like maybe a wee bit with your M2, but besides that, there's literally none. And I say besides that, M2 is absolutely not fun. But like probably from an aspect of like maybe seeing like others and what they potentially do, whether it's with cars or whether it's just with like their day to day, like I would get no sense of that from you. Is that something that you developed through childhood or like through the personal development side of things, or?
Yeah, I probably get quite embarrassed by, like, I get quite embarrassed by the M2. Like, that's for me. But at times I'd rather I could like morph it into a Clio.
Okay.
No offense for anyone that has a Clio, by the way. No, but like in seriousness, like I fucking love cars.
Yep.
Like that's for me, for my enjoyment, like from like a driver's point of view.
Yep.
But see if I had like a big like Rolex watch or whatever, I'd probably feel quite embarrassed by that in certain situations.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe that's like an insecurity or a judgment thing.
Yep.
To be real. But it's probably also like an upbringing thing. Like my mum and dad were never in any way flashy. I was probably brought up not to actually be flashy.
Yeah.
Not that materialistic. It's money's more about choices and travel and probably family and stuff than flashy watches. Yeah. Forgot the other part of your question, which was really relevant.
It was just in the topic of obviously money mindset, but also like flipping the ego side of things as well. Just from you talking, to be fair, I could probably get the impression that you're actually very reserved. I think materialistic is probably the word in terms of like you're the opposite of that. You're very reserved from a monetary aspect. You wouldn't actually really be able to tell. It's just like whenever we've discussed, I guess, like business and other aspects, I've never got any impression of any sort of like, well, I'm making this much and I am this like brute force and like you're maybe making less. I've never got any impression of that whatsoever. It's only ever been the opposite of that from you. And It's mad because I probably obviously only see a small snippet of what people actually put on socials. And it's probably like when I look at people within the network, nobody within Young Lazy has that attitude in terms of like materialistic, shut people down, ego related, which comes with our vetting process. And now I think about it, when I look at like someone like Ishan's the exact same as you. Like doing crazy numbers, specializing in business acquisition as opposed to like at a crazy age as well, and like no ego. You would not be able to tell that from any way, shape, or form. And I guess that probably does come down to what you kind of touched on with you being more reserved because of potentially also parents side of things. We also understand how important programming is, but yeah, I just wanted to connect the dots because I feel like a lot of people do get like caught up chasing the bag and feeling like they have to keep up with the Joneses and acquire X, Y, and Z and, you know, flash it, but also bring their ego to conversations as well, where it's like, I am earning this much, and they want to gain respect.
Yeah.
You have like naturally gained respect in every level from just being you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the only thing that like I genuinely really do struggle with, and I think this drives me, so I've kind of made peace with it. My Joneses are me. Like, I want to like impress me. I don't really care about, sounds brutal, but like it's not to impress anyone else.
Yep.
But the minute that the business gets to a certain level, I am unsatisfied with that, and I know we can do more, and I don't think that'll ever change.
Yep.
And I think that's probably part of it as well. As I'm not showing off with where we're at because like genuinely I don't think it's that impressive.
Yep.
Like where we're at in the future, I think that could be impressive, but when I get there, I'll probably not feel impressive. And that, I hope that doesn't sound really arrogant because
it doesn't.
It's like I genuinely feel that. Like I don't feel like we're, compared to where we should be, we're not doing anything.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. And I think you've touched on a good couple of things that we'd highlighted before coming in here that we wanted to talk about, which was like you spent so much time on the personal development side of things. You highlighted all the things which you do on a regular basis. One of which, when we kind of first started speaking, you spoke about a somewhat trip that you took.
Yeah.
You've taken them a couple of times, I want to say. where it's, you know, no phone, only a burner phone, time to yourself, almost like out in the wild.
Yeah.
How does that like actually serve you when you implement them, and also when do you feel like it's necessary in order for you to do that?
Okay. Yeah, the team definitely don't know how to do this, by the way, but okay. Yeah, so I did that probably most recently last September. It was only 3 days, but 3 days away, did part of the West Highland Way. Myself, bag, tent, burner phone for like genuine emergencies, if you like, paper map, so that wasn't on a smartphone or whatever. Why do I think I needed that? My head was probably full of noise. Like I didn't have clarity of direction. Things didn't feel easy. I don't think I was being a good leader for our team.
Yep.
I don't feel like I was being the best version of me for Becky, girlfriend, my family, whatever. Like, just like you're not being you right now.
Yep.
Nature's like an incredible thing that just like we're animals. It just takes us back to like the purest version of where we're meant to be. Like cams are central nervous systems, etc. Definitely not in any way like a doctor, by the way, so please don't take that as advice. But yeah, it does genuinely help for me. Like at work, quite often I'll just go on a wee walk in one of the parks that we have nearby, and it's an incredible thing. If you actually just go for a walk and look up at the trees, it's scientifically proven to calm you down. Like it reduces your stress more than the Headspace app or, you know, a YouTube meditation. I'm sure they definitely work as well. I also, so on that trip and trips like that, I took like a pocket notepad and a pen, just like anything that cropped up, whether that was a creative idea for the business or whether that was a reflection on something that I know I need to improve on. I just note it down. And then when I got to my tent in the evening, I'd have a bigger notepad and I'd journal on it as much as felt natural. So if I didn't want to, then I wouldn't. If I wanted to write for hours, then I'd do that. I don't have social media on my phone. In general, going back to personal brand thing, I know that's something that I probably actually need to get back on there, but I definitely still dopamine hunt. I'll pull out my phone and open the news app. I'll delete the news app, so I'll pull out my phone. I'll go in the emails. Delete the emails. It's like I will still always like search for something. But being in an environment that there's no phone, there's no laptop, there's no other people, you're forced to actually just sit on or walk on the things that are really bothering you, and you're forced to really figure them out. And it was literally like 3.5 days back in September, and I was at a fairly noisy period. I feel like I was very unclear on a few things, and I just came back so calm. I actually came back home and then went for a walk in Kelvin Park. I was like, no, I don't want to stop walking. But highly recommend. And I don't think it's something that anybody, like, that humans do enough. Is just go and spend time by yourself. Everybody thought I was like, whenever I do that, people think that I'm really weird. They're like, oh, what's wrong? Like, Becky was like, people are going to think that like we're falling out. Like, no, it's just a good thing to do.
Because my first thought was that would scare the shit out of so many people. Like so many aspects of that, but also like for a lot of people, they just can't sit themselves. I can't remember what episode it was that I listened to. I think it was Jordan Peterson. He was just speaking a lot about, like, man, you got a problem, like, sit at the end of your bed, close your eyes, like, truly think on it, without any other phone conversation, like anything, just fully on that. And it's almost like doing that to like 100x that. Like, you're literally putting yourself in a scenario where, like we spoke about earlier on, like desperation creates, you know, so many different opportunities. And I think in that moment, it's very much the case. You don't have any other choice but to be with yourself. That initial, I guess, if thinking from my own experience, whenever I'm in a scenario where For example, when I went to Piper Dam in June, there was no phone signal where we were. We could only get phone signal by walking to the reception, which was like a 10-minute walk from our lodge. And that was enough for me not to want to like go there to like get my phone, because there was such a big barrier almost to like go to it, where I could just walk in another direction and like be even more lost in like what I was currently at. To begin with, it felt, I was like, what the fuck? Like every time I turn my phone, there's nothing on there. Like I can't actually do anything. Kind of something you're speaking about. What apps can I go on? Download Football Manager on my phone. Like all these other things that I'm like trying to find. And as soon as I just silenced it, like when I actually look at my screen time from back then, it was like 20 minutes a day, which was just 2 10-minute cycles of me going to the reception to speak to Andy to make sure YNL was sound. And besides that, like I felt fucking amazing. Like, yeah, absolutely amazing. It's almost like that, but even better than what you've just, like the one that you spoke about is like doing that, but even on a greater scale. So I can completely understand that. But it's mad though, because see, when you come back into your own environment, you instantly just end up back the way you were in terms of constantly on your phone, checking your phone, and so on and so forth, or not?
So I think the real kind of clarity and calmness probably in a strong way lasts for like a week, and you're probably in a better, sharper way for a month. It'll probably reduce the next round. By the way, how wrong is it that both of us are saying, like, when we do that kind of thing, you feel so great?
Yeah.
And yet that's the exception, not the norm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's completely backwards. Yeah, we could talk about that for God knows how long. I guess it's probably some questions that people are probably curious about, like like what do you do for food? What do you do for like you said you just like you took a tent, so you didn't actually, like, you weren't staying in a house or like anything of that in a lodge, anything like that. You were literally just out in the wild for 3.5 days.
Yeah.
Is that literally it? Or
Literally. What do I do for food? I caught wild hedgehog. No, that's a joke. I can't even really remember what I did for food. I think I had, like, this is incredibly unhealthy and actually not the point in it, but I think I just took like a bunch of Trek bars that are
love Trek bars, by the way.
Yeah, well, they're vegan, so they don't have milk in them, so they're grand for me.
The protein flapjacks like that they have are the salty caramel one is fucking real. Would highly recommend, by the way.
There you go, sponsored by Trek. I took some of them and like spaghetti hoops and stuff like that. I just ate them cold. Simple. You probably expected a better answer with that. I was cooking like steak on an open fire. No, see with food, I like in general, food for me is just fuel. Like unless I'm eating out, I don't really care what I'm eating. I'd definitely this year, I've put far more emphasis into making sure that it's like genuinely got good veg in it. Probably off the back of that Diary of a CEO podcast, actually controversial in YNL. But making sure like it's healthy and nutritious, etc. for sure. But like I really don't care about food, like especially breakfast and lunch. It's just fuel. If it's quick, like I'll microwave scrambled egg in the office in the morning.
I thought that this morning.
Yeah, people think that like my team coming and like that's a disgusting way to have egg. I'm like, I don't care. It's calories.
Way.
I just need that. That's good.
Put some spinach strip. Feel like that. Good option, man. That's a good option. Yeah, I think there's so much to digest. If I think about pardon the pun, digestion. But
I was definitely not deliberate.
There was a guy that I met who I don't think I've ever spoke to you about him, to be fair. Posty. Did I ever tell you about Posty?
Possibly
touched on a little bit. Any like viewers are coming from like the gaming side of things, Posty was someone that was massively renowned as a viewer. So he would come into streams and he would gift large amounts of money basically to the viewers. He owned 6 companies across 2 continents. He used to work 2 8-hour days every single day, and he was fucking obsessed with business. And he would put together basically like a pot every single month of cash that would be specific for streamers. They would come in and he would gift a ridiculous amount of money. There was time periods where he gifted like, there's one of the days gifted like 350 subs, which comes to like just shy of like $2,000. And he would do that he had like a handful of streamers that he would go into. I was fortunate enough to be one of them. And he was someone that was just incredible. And he was based in America, so he was based in Florida. So to get any time with him, was way past my bedtime to try and get on a call with him of any nature. But there was one time period where I hopped on with him at 1 a.m. in the morning, and I was on with him for 5 hours until 6 a.m. Which, thinking back to, I've not done that for fuck knows how long. I've not even been up since 11 o'clock at night since I started business, probably. But just fully immersed, fully lost. I remember at 6:30 hearing my mum get up, and I was like, holy shit, I've been on here for 5.5 hours, no process, no extra drinks, just sitting. And there was a time period within that call where he basically spoke to me about, there was a time period that it forced him to, he basically would drink a lot, would other aspects of his life that he just was really derailing. And how he fixed it was going and living in the wild for 2 years. Fully, just took his dogs and just no phone, made sure the businesses ran. They were in it, he chooses to work, the businesses could run without him. And yeah, he just went for 2 years, cured him of all of the other aspects of he would he loved drinking, he would drink every single night, there would be other aspects of his life that he wanted to get rid of as well. And yeah, he basically just sacrificed all of them to go on this, 2 year, time period. And he genuinely believes that changed his whole life in every way, shape or form. And when he speaks about it, when I met you, you were the first person that I actually met that even done something remotely, and even just for 3.5 days, remotely similar to what he did, even though his was on a fucking 2 year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You couldn't live off a Trek bar and some spaghetti hoops over that time period.
That'd be very unhealthy.
Yeah. But he was someone that, in terms of a mentor, before I even knew what a mentor was, because that was when I was just in the gaming side of things, he was someone that opened my mind to so much more, but also so much more about the hunter-gatherer times and how we actually evolved. He exposed me to so much about that I just did not understand nor could I even comprehend. And even when he was telling me, I was like, well, I didn't really understand it then, but now through probably further research, there's probably so much of which we, suppress. And the book Driven that you recommended, so I'm not fully finished it. I want to start it again and fully immerse and journal on it.
Yeah.
But there's a part in that book that speaks a lot about, doing a lot of talking here, but speaks a lot about, within our genetics and how as we've evolved through the last fucking God knows how many years, there were times where something, for example, having a genetic that would, for example, a lot of people say they've got a good bullshit detector. They can detect someone that's full of shit. They can blah, blah, blah. There's an aspect in the book within Driven that explains that through the hunter-gatherer times, there was actual people within the tribe that were required to have almost like the danger detector gene, where they could detect danger from far away and so on and so forth. And I guess in that environment that Posty was forced himself into, that very much probably made him be so in touch with that he probably started to lean more on what he was actually good at, which actually brings it back to what you spoke about at the beginning of actually understanding what you're actually good at and how to lean on it. And there's so much that we probably don't even realise that we are actually good at, or that we don't even know that we possess it. And it just so happens for me, the reason I'm bringing that up is because, also links to a couple of things in the conversation, but within running Young and Lazy, which is a network full of people, I definitely believe if this was back hundreds of years ago, I would have been the danger detector, because I developed, I guess I have the gene or whatever, that I truly believe that I possess the trait that is able to detect whether someone has bad intentions for the people that I am truly protecting, which I've now, Young and Lazy is the people that I'm protecting.
Yeah.
And ensuring that people's intentions are pure is something that I cannot allow in for your sake, for Blair's sake, it doesn't matter, that just simply cannot be. And it's probably something that if I'd done something similar to what you had done, I probably would have potentially found that out. And it's only through the book Driven that you recommended, that as he's speaking about all these different genes and all these different things that you were literally required in order for tribes to survive back in the day, did I realise, holy shit, I have that. And it's like, probably through that element of self-discovery when I ask you, like, how did you develop the mindset you've got towards money and towards like ego and towards other aspects through a shit ton of personal development, there's probably been so much that has came from that stunt in the wild that it'd be fucking class to just do it for an even longer time period, but actually know how to fucking survive. Like, I would know what the fuck to do if I was out there.
Take cooking equipment rather than check bars.
Yes, yes, I would need to take quite a lot. There wasn't a question in there. It was literally just a matter of actually, I guess, brain dumping what was going on within my mind that other listeners potentially wouldn't potentially have even known it was there in the first place. Was there things during that like 3.5 day stint that came to you that weren't in the form of, for example, areas that you wanted to develop or business improvements? Was there other things? And if so, like what?
Oh, 100%. I think issues that were, so I won't go into, but issues that were maybe very live at that point that I was blaming on other events or other people, and actually having an environment away from the norm, the desk, the office, the same home that I live in every day, probably forced me to actually go, what if here is my fault? What if here is down to me?
Yep. And
again, actually just having to stay with that thought rather than pulling out your phone and checking the news app and your, I'd say the news app.
I love how you say the news app. Yeah.
But I don't have TikTok or whatever, so it's like the news app is like genuinely that's where I go, which is sad. I've deleted that now. Yeah, definitely. There's probably there was probably thoughts on like people's judgment of me, etc., and how that was maybe actually a me problem rather than a them problem that was particularly relevant to the time. So I won't go into too much detail, but I think going back to the kind of driven piece, no, there wasn't a question there.
Yeah.
But I think that's really, really relevant, and it comes to the kind of me going on a walk for 3.5 days. That people are wired differently, and there is people that are probably more hunter, and there's people that are probably more gatherer. Mm-hmm. But really, we live in a gatherer's world. Like very organized people, our lawyers, our bankers, our politicians. They're probably more gatherers. It's structure, process, consistency, laws, and we're better human beings. We're a better society because of all that stuff.
Yep.
We are humans because of that stuff. We're not just animals. But the hunter side of us, which is possibly more entrepreneurial, and a lot of entrepreneurs are possibly more hunter. If you read the book, this will make more sense, by the way. That actually is the part of a lot of us that makes us go and kind of come up with new ideas or concepts or push into different ideas, different lands. And it also this is slightly off piste, but it makes a lot of us very interested in things like travel and adventure sports and stuff like that, because we just want difference and excitement, and we're literally wired for that. And I think it's really important for people that actually, it can be a lot of people that are driven and are wired that way probably feel a bit shitty at times because they live in this world that the majority of people are more gatherer wired.
They're potentially suppressing that. Yeah. Driven, by the way, it's by Douglas Brackman.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Wow. Remember that better than I. I've read it like 9 times.
It's just because Driven's like, I think there's a few books called Driven.
There's a podcast as well, actually.
There's a podcast as well. Yeah. I would highly recommend it. There's probably quite a lot within the book that's, I tried to like start listening to it on the train and stuff like that. It's definitely not a book for the train. Like you want to actually sit and consume. Also, I listened to the audiobook, but obviously reading it, you would actually take the time out with that to actually consume it. But I know it's a book that's had like a massive impact on yourself. Is there any other books that spring to mind besides like the E-Myth you touched on?
You know, I'm actually reading at the moment Marcus Aurelius' Meditations.
No, don't know how you got that from.
Old Connor Malone, which is just incredible. Like, I don't even know how old it is, but fucking old. And it's like, it's really hard to read it. And it's probably your own perceptions of what you're reading, but everything is just so, like, class. Yeah. It's so deep. But a ton of books, like, business growth books like E-Myth. E-Myth is really good if you're earlier stage. So it talks about the technician, the entrepreneur. I can't remember, sorry, the other one. But basically, there's people that are more admin focused that run the day to day in a company, and there's people that are more kind of bigger picture thinkers, and you need both, and that's fine. And it talks also about consistent, reliable results and building process behind things, like almost having like an operations manual for everything that you do in the company. It's essentially why McDonald's do so well. They have a timer that goes off after 20 seconds to flip the burger. Yep. And everything's consistent and reliable, and that's why they're everywhere pretty much the same.
You read Simple, Logical, Repeatable by Malyon Page?
No.
That was created in a similar, That was everything you were saying there. I was like, even related to McDonald's, like she was one of the kind of founding franchisees of McDonald's or something to do with the license of some sort. But yeah, very much everything you were saying there. I was like, the fuck? I've heard that before.
I think like early days business, like super important, because there's, especially when you start to hire people, like you need, yes, you will onboard them and you will hand things over to them, but it's really good to have something documented to actually kind of hand the baton on. Like there's things that our team now do today that I defined like 5 years ago, and then probably some shitty way in comparison to how the team now pull things together now, by the way, document it, and we're still doing it that way, and it's like, oh yeah. Remember when we figured that out? Yeah. But if you don't document it in a clean way, then it's hard to actually use that as a foundation to build further.
Yeah, that's actually quite a good question to be fair to ask. That, like, how did you document it all? Was it all within notepads, or was it like actually like on a system?
Okay. So literally, our first version was really just Word documents and a case of like Word documents, screenshots, maybe screen recording, like how to put we'd run a service department, so we have a lot of bookings, how to quote for a booking, maybe check other operators on booking.com, check our rates from the previous year, tick, how to put a booking in, click this button. Like, sounds really simple, but if I was hit by a bus, it's that old check. If I was hit by a bus, somebody could then take that in and okay, this is how we do it. Talking about E-Myth, sounds like I'm promoting their their book and their program, but we actually, E-Myth also do a program, and we actually signed up for the E-Myth program for a year, and it talks you through like so many steps of your business and how to like truly systemize it. So that actually helped. Ironically, it was a process to help us build process. Okay. We'd also going back to Joy's full-time role with us now is literally process development. Yeah. So we actually have a team member who like literally documents process, and she'll set an interview David, our marketing manager, and say, so how do we create a strategy for email marketing? Yeah. And David will say that, and she'll document it, and then she'll send it to David, and David will be, I didn't quite mean that, and she'll tweak it. So we now have in SharePoint, so everybody has access to it. We have like a document for pretty much how to do everything.
How the fuck do you actually identify someone to come in and just focus on improving processes? Is that just something that maybe you were doing a lot, or Jake was doing a lot, or potentially, and then you were like, fuck, this has actually became such an crucial part of, because if I was thinking about like Young and Lazy, I was trying to think there, like, what is a part of it that I do regularly, we do regularly, that's part of our growth and how we actually improve? And it's like probably feedback forms. Yeah. It's probably been a crucial part of how we've actually grew and provided the service that we have. So it's almost like in my mind, what an example of that scenario would be like, we would have someone that would come in to consistently generate feedback from our clients and work out ways in which they could implement it to the business. Would that be an example of that?
Yeah. Joy is our whole team's incredible, but Joy is genuinely, she's just that kind of person that if I said to Joy, I'll see you at 9 on a Tuesday, could you remind me to make a cup of tea? for the rest of time, that would happen. It would be done. She would, she'd tell me at 9:01 in 2 minutes time, and it would be in her calendar. She's just like super organized, super tight. I'm like the opposite of that. Like my strengths are figuring out where we're going, bringing the team with us on that, figuring out how we overcome the kind of bigger challenges, if you like. The stuff that happens week in, week out, that's not my strength.
Well, it's interesting though, because one of the things we documented to speak about was how you've automated a lot of the different areas of your life.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties in exactly what you've just said there, that you've had to automate a lot of your life because of this potential, like, unorganized Laurence.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on some of the areas that you've essentially automated and how you've done so?
Yeah, sure. So, interestingly, some people think I'm really organized.
Okay.
Like I'm naturally very unorganized, and it's because of that, and maybe the self-awareness to go, this is a real weakness of yours, that I've like literally forced myself to be organized. Like stupid things like I will literally always ask Siri to remind me of something. Like if something pops into my head, like if I'm in the shower or in the car or in the gym, and I'm like, oh, I need to phone that person back. Oh, that's a cool idea for Donnini. I need to ask John that thing. Like I literally always say, hey Siri, or please don't type in or hold the button and say remind me to do that, and then that's cool. I can forget it. Like it's out my brain. I don't need to hang on to it, so my brain has more capacity to take on other things.
And you know, I was going to
incredible. Don't even know what that is. Like with the gym, I'll go to a CrossFit class the same time every day. I'll prepare my clothes the night before. That's maybe not automation per se, but that's a habit that's been built, because otherwise I know I'll not consistently work out, and I'll therefore not be the best version of me for my team and for the growth of the company. We get gusto. We actually aren't doing it at the moment because Becky's made an executive decision to do something different. But up until January, we were doing gusto, like recipe kits every week. And if you like forget to go in and choose what you want, Gusto just send you food. And it's great. Like obviously you have to pay them for it, but it's great because like, again, food that's taken care of.
Yeah.
We have to cook it, but you don't have to worry about going to the supermarket and forgetting. But yeah, there's a ton of things that I've had to put in place because otherwise I'll be pretty unorganized. My calendar, I'm really quite particular about that. Like the team take the piss that if we have a meeting at 12, like I'll walk in at 12.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've actually managed to break my Apple Watch, so it's not on at the moment, but like I have the wee screen that's like the next calendar entry, and I'll just always run off the calendar. Like lunch goes in the calendar, sleep goes in the calendar. Everything's in the calendar, so that it's fine. My calendar will tell me what to do next, so I don't have to forget about it, or I can forget about it, I should say.
Vitamins, reminders, and then also you spoke about the planning of, obviously it kind of falls into the calendar side of things, but the planning with Becky, you'll plan 4 weekends or so in advance at the beginning of each month, because you will literally just not do anything if you don't.
Yeah, it's to make sure that we do things, like that we do things other than work things.
Yep.
And we have a joint calendar that we both have on our phones. Like I've got my work calendar, but if she's catching up with someone, like a friend, she'll put it in our calendar. So I'm like, right, cool. That night I'll probably do something with a friend.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just like that. Again, I can understand why people would think I'm organized because of that, but it's to actually force it, because otherwise I'll just be in this wheel spinned mess of what am I doing next?
Yeah. It's definitely something that I think a lot of people would benefit from, especially those kind of entrepreneurs. I think about people like Scott McClure, for example. He's definitely someone that is just worker mode, locked in, working all the time. And probably some areas of that would probably resonate a lot with Scott, potentially.
I don't know if Scott, I think Scott's got the conviction that he's just like, he doesn't fuck it. He doesn't need that. He'll smash it anyway.
Yeah, he definitely will, mate. You touched obviously on when we were touching on books, I recently finished Ego is the Enemy, and I think ego is something that you've been continuing to work on in terms of just your own personal development of understanding. I guess how to, obviously we spoke about money and stuff like that. It's very clear that you don't have any ego from that side of things. I feel like it's something that probably has quite a hold on all of us on a very regular basis. And I think within business, if I think about probably my relationship with Andy and the running of the business, there is no ego involved from what I believe in a lot of instances. But obviously, for a lot of people, they allow their ego to stop them from allowing things to progress for a lot of different reasons. That was a roundabout way of explaining why I'm asking this question, which is that how did you actually develop, I guess, the thought process you've got around ego and how to potentially suppress that so that you can continue to do what is best for, say, the company or for your relationship or for whatever it is, anything else.
Okay. I think that probably in trying to understand myself, I appreciated that almost part of doing that is, hey, why don't we really try and understand other people?
Yep.
And that's David Main phoning me back. Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to kind of give a good answer on this.
It's okay. While you're thinking about that, I'll just let listeners know that Siri did actually pop in when Laurence did actually say it, and then now that did phone somebody, and then that person's actually phoned us back because that would have not been picked up at all.
Yeah, that happens quite often when you use. I'm scared to say his name now.
Yeah. Just let him.
I think I don't know if I'm totally answering your question here, but to talk on ego, where I will kind of use that now is if I'm talking to a team member and we need to move in a different direction, or maybe it's something that is really kind of a bit of a challenge for them. I kind of check in with myself and go, is this actually, like, are you picking this up wrong? Is this your problem? Like, is this your fault? Whereas maybe at times in the past I would have been more like I know what's right here, and I know where I'm going with it. But I think that's probably also linked to trying to understand different personality types. And I know that my personality is quite strong in a lot of ways. Like, I'm incredibly empathetic. And that sounds quite arrogant in that context. I don't always see that as a good thing, by the way. Whereas if you have somebody that's less on an empathy spectrum, they might be more like, oh, we just need to do it that way. Whereas I could slow things down with making certain decisions on team members because of maybe being overly empathetic.
Yep.
But where ego comes in is you actually need to go, well, people are different, and actually my stance is not necessarily the right stance. And I feel so strongly that is the right stance because I'm wired so strongly that way.
Yep.
But people that are wired very differently are going to themselves feel very strongly that is the right way.
Yep.
Also, what I've probably kind of realized more recently is when basically having probably compassion and ironically empathy for people for things when it's going to be really hard for someone to go with a certain direction or a certain decision, and trying to see that from their point of view when it might be their ego that's actually pushing them into thinking, I can't do that. That's not right.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense. But
that definitely makes sense. Probably one that I would probably need to run back and actually properly keep sure. It's probably a wee bit that I'd probably replay to make sure I picked up exactly what you're implying. But there was actually one thing that kind of sprung to my mind there, which was that I guess the thought process for you that you've, I guess, trained your mind to get to is that, like, whenever you're in those sort of scenarios, to ask the questions that, I guess, puts you in a position to eliminate the ego. Is that something that was forced to develop through certain discussions, or was that something that, like, is just naturally kind of evolved through the constant journaling and the constant self-development?
I would say on that one, that was probably we've got a really, really great mentor at Donnini called Gordon, who is like just the best guy. Talk about being kingly. Like, he's just kingly, empathetic, great guy who's had very senior roles in very large companies, basically because he's just so great. But in the past, I'd maybe sit and go, we absolutely need to go in this direction because it's the only way we could possibly go, and it's it's 100% right. And Gordon would just sit there and go, why? And you'd be like, oh, right, okay, I'm really going to actually have to think this through. And then the second answer might be softer because you've actually given it a chance to think. Basically, the realization that the initial answer is just like, that's not objective. It's just ego. It's just coming from what you think without taking anything else on board.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's probably came through like mentorship, if you like, and definitely isn't just a natural thing.
At what point I guess like when individuals are running their business, mentorship, coaching, like for me, like probably coaching was quite a big step to kind of invest a large amount of that time for me into a coach to actually help me also move forward. At what stage did you invest in Gordon, and was he the first, or did you just have ones prior? Because it sounds to me like you invested in quite a lot of things within the business. You invested in also the property coaching to begin with, and then you also invested in the eMyth course. And I know that you've invested in a lot of other things because you also shared knowledge from them and focus groups and stuff like that. So that just became a part of what you do, where you are consistently getting better and investing regularly? Is that something that you set aside? I'm asking about a million questions.
Yeah. I think so. It's not all of it has necessarily been like a financial investment. A lot of it is actually just having conversations with people. Mm. But yes, we definitely have invested significant time and money in mentorship, coaching, training, and I think that's probably because the philosophy from the very start has been we don't have the experience. I don't have the experience in knowing what is the right way. But see if we are strong on the vision and we know who we are and we know what kind of business that Donnini is. We know what our culture should look like. That's the bit that we need to figure that out.
Yeah.
But the bits we don't have experience on, you could have a strong ego and say, well, we know best.
Yeah.
Or you could say, we're 19. We don't know best.
Yeah.
We actually don't have a clue. But there's people out there that really, really do.
Yeah.
Let's go and get their perspective. Mm-hmm. And even if we get a bunch of different people's perspective, blend them, and that's actually probably a good way forward.
Yeah.
One thing I would say with mentorship, coaching, training, you don't have to go with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's also equally as important to say, because I think a lot of people get to the point with a coach or with a mentor that they feel like, oh, okay, this person is some kind of godly creature that they know the only way. I really thought that we should have went this way, but that person thinks that we should go this way, so we're going to go this way. And like, no, you need to go the way that you truly believe is right. And actually talking about Gordon, that's one thing that he's brilliant at. And I actually think that's one thing that good coaches and good mentors are very good at, is he never goes, you need to do this.
Yep.
It's always, it probably helps us to the point that we're more likely to come to the right decision.
Yep.
And there's also times that he has possibly tried to make us see something in a different light because he thinks that we're missing something, and we'll go, nah, like we do, like, thank you so much, but we're still going to go that way. And he's like, cool, that's nice. That's your job. That's not my job.
Have you ever asked him how he's developed that?
Probably yes. Probably ask like, how are you so wise, etc. And he'll say things like, you need to try and be a chameleon. So you need to really understand who you're working with and who you're talking to. And you need to like put yourself in their seat and see things from their eyes. He's also probably naturally wired to slow things down, want the data, not just blurt out with, this is the way we're going.
Yeah.
So he's probably naturally wired that way as well. But hey, that doesn't mean that I haven't had learning from that. Like, he might naturally have that as a strength. I definitely don't when it comes to slowing things down.
Yeah.
But him being that way on coaches and mentors that are around you that have those strengths, you can still learn from them.
Yeah. Because I think that's something that probably a lot of people would potentially want to develop, but potentially not know how to. And I think you touched on a good couple of things, probably within Ego's Enemy. Ryan Holiday speaks a lot about guess like I don't know if he sums it up this way, but it's like the main thing I take away from the book is like differentiating like ego and confidence. Like they aren't the same thing. Like I think a lot of people get caught up in like I would sometimes think like I'd be so confident about something and I'd be like, I'm going to choose to do that because I'm confident about it, because of past data, because of past result, or because of whatever it is, whatever that is being presented. I'm confident about it in that nature. And actually differentiating when that's ego and when that's actually based on logical data. And I think that's something that when you have a coach or you've had a coach for a long period of time, can be hard to differentiate that, because it's almost like, you put it in a really polite way, but it's almost like in your eyes the sun shines out their arse. Like anything they say, you're like, sound, I'm going to do that. I don't care. Like, you know, whatever they say goes. And then you almost kind of develop like your own level of confidence, and you start to potentially evolve from that coach. And I think that's potentially like their role to get you to that stage to evolve, potentially past. And I think a lot of people, when they take a coach, they kind of take them as whatever they say goes. And I'll not conform to maybe my own level of gut instinct or my own level of intuition. And it's probably something that, I guess it's within the book that I'm reading at the moment, speaks a lot about when you lean on your own intuition, you actually like don't really lose in any way, shape, or form. Even if you get it wrong, you develop obviously a deeper level of wisdom, and also if you get it right, you develop a deeper level of conviction. So either way, you win.
Yeah.
And I guess having that mindset is what you kind of touched on as well, when like maybe a coach isn't required or a mentor isn't required. But I think in order for it to not be required, you probably require that mindset of like, right, cool, I'm going to get a lot of shit wrong then. Because I think a lot of people go into it like with the thought process, I'm going to fucking smash everything. I'm going to do everything to its highest level and I'm going to fucking smash it all at the park. When in reality, it's the flip side of that, of understanding that I'm going to get a lot of shit wrong then. And I'm okay with that. And that I will take a lot of learnings away from that. Yeah, what springs to your mind while I'm kind of talking through that?
I think that's, 100% fair. You're also, like, you're going to get a bunch of shit wrong early days business anyway, and I think it's kind of common theory now that actually that's a good thing, and it's about getting back up again and moving forward from the failures. One thing that is definitely accurate though is, well, you can learn through your mistakes, or you can learn through other people's mistakes.
Yes.
Like, park your ego. Don't necessarily think that you have all the answers, and go and talk to a blend of people that maybe do.
Yep.
I also would say, interestingly, how you spoke about going from like maybe having a duration with a coach and then going, right, okay, I'm now at a point that I need to move on. I've maybe outgrown this way of working, this coach, this relationship, whatever. Which is fair. I think a truly good mentor, maybe that wouldn't be the case, because actually there's nothing to outgrow, because they're just there to make you the best version of yourself.
It's probably differentiating mentoring coach,
possibly,
potentially. Because it sounds like Gordon at times is probably he's almost like a sounding board.
Sure.
For you guys, which is like, I would never see any reason to not have a sounding board.
The only time that goes too far is there's like, if problems come up and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to get Gordon's thoughts on this.
Yep.
Because actually, I mean that does happen, that I'm like, no, you actually need to figure this out yourself, because otherwise, you're just always going to rely on Gordon to help solve the big problems. But and another good thing about a good mentor is, if you're asking them for advice on things that you should really be able to solve yourself, they'll probably say it and go, well, what do you think?
Yeah, they definitely flip it around. That's for sure. Yeah, you've touched on a lot there, mate. I think that for a lot of individuals, especially when they come into business, they are potentially trying to find the right coach, but they're maybe unsure of what the right coach potential looks like. And obviously, quite clearly with your experience with Gordon. How long have you been with Gordon, you and Jake?
Probably 5 of the 6 years.
Wow.
We were meant to have him for 1 year. It was a Scottish enterprise thing, actually. Yeah, we were meant to have them once every 2 weeks for a year. And yeah, I was at Gordon's house the day before yesterday, having a wee sofa session. And definitely was emailing and texting him yesterday. Like we'll probably tend to speak maybe once a day.
Yeah.
5 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know it's probably pretty much the same with Jake as well.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's amazing, man. I mean, we've touched on pretty much everything. Where are we at time wise? Well, 120, mate. I think that's. But I think we've digested a lot of good shit, man, that people can take away from someone that's went from the very beginning of the journey. I try to get inside the mind of the listener to ask the questions that are potentially prompting and coming up. But what I will say is that if you are listening, we've not covered something that could be incredibly important, never hesitate to obviously like drop us a message on our Instagram or even dropping myself a message. Because there's so many different things that we could have digressed into there that I think we could have had. You joked about having the studio until 9. I think that would have actually been required if we were to really digress into everything. But yeah, maybe a part 2 could be a shout. But
part 2.
In terms of socials, finding yourself, if you want to learn more about yourself and what you're doing.
You know what? I actually set up one of these URL like you cool YNL people. So follow lm.com. Okay. You can find my LinkedIn on that. I'm not really on any other social media, but I need to get back on it. So I think I'm at Malyon on Instagram.
Nice.
And I'm not old enough to still be on Facebook. So.
And if you want to just obviously watch Donnini grow. How's Donnini spelled?
Donnini.
Apartments.
At Donnini Apartments, yeah. We're Donnini.co.uk.
Oh.
And yeah, very keen to talk to property investors, people that might want to join the team. Yeah. People that might want to stay with us.
If you're an amazing team to be a part of, mate, that's for sure. But also thank you so much for coming on, mate. I think there's a lot of value to be taken away from it. And thanks again, Paul, as always, bro. Incredible session. Incredible podcast episode. I'm so used to focus groups. But yeah, thank you all for listening. If you're on Spotify, make sure to ring the bell, follow. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. We'll have regular episodes rolling out from here on out.